New Democracy leader Kyriakos Mitsotakis sworn in as Greece's prime minister after a general election where the son of another former Greek premier ended 5 years of left-wing rule under Alexis Tsipras. Mitsotakis elected on a pledge to cut bailout-era taxes and ease draconian budget targets that had been set by Greece's creditors. Sam Bradpiece has more.
With the flick of a pen, Kyriakos Mitsotakis took the reins of power in Greece on Monday. The Conservative politician won close to 40% of the votes in Sunday's election, bulldozing leftist premier Alexis Tsipras. The 51-year-old Harvard graduate and former McKinsey consultant took the oath of office in the presidential mansion with his wife and 3 children present.
And I feel that I have a strong mandate to deliver on my agenda, which is an agenda to grow the economy, to create more jobs, but also to make sure that the people feel safe again.
Whatever his ambitions, the new premier faces a tough task. In 2018, Greece's debt stood at €335 billion, and while this is expected to fall, the country is still blighted by high levels of unemployment and slow growth. The previous government lost public support because of austerity policies imposed to satisfy international lenders and to keep Greece in the Eurozone. On the streets of Athens, there is hope for positive change.
Finally, Greece will enter a rhythm of happiness and recovery.
I believe the Greek people punished the previous government. They expected more.
Mitsotakis vowed to abide by his campaign pledges to cut taxes, attract investment and improve the job market. But critics argue further reductions to welfare spending will hit already vulnerable groups the hardest.
And for more, we are joined first by our Chief International Affairs Editor, Robert Parsons. Rob, there was a regularly scheduled meeting of EU finance ministers in Brussels earlier, and the Dutch finance minister in particular warning the Greeks to stick to the plan.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is he's got a big majority, and because he's come first, he gets the extra 50 seats in the Greek parliament, so he's really in a strong position to push through his own ideas. The problem is, as Tsipras discovered when he was Prime Minister, the pressure that will be put on him from outside forces, international creditors, the IMF, the European Union that you've just been referring to, is going to be immense. And later, I think it's this week or the beginning of next week, the EU and the IMF are visiting Athens to make that point, to say that we're going to be breathing down your necks, make sure you keep to the agreements. Now, we know that Mitsotakis has got clear plans. He wants to cut taxes. He wants to privatize much of what he would regard as the bloated state sector, and he wants to attract investment. But he's got to have the resources to do all those things. And a lot of people are raising their eyebrows and saying, well, it doesn't really add up at this stage. And that's the sort of pressure that's going to be put on him very early on.
All right, for more on this, let's go to Athens and join Filippa Chatzistavrou. She's assistant professor at the University of Athens. Thank you for speaking with us here on France 24.
Hello.
Let me begin, Filippa, with breaking news, which is we're getting the first names out from Greece's cabinet. Your reaction, Christos Staikouras, named as finance minister.
I think that this is normal. I mean, Christos Staikouras is for a long time now a personal advisor and also the head of the Financial and Economic Department of the New Democracy Party. So I think it's a nomination that has no surprise for everybody here in the country.
And picking up on what we were just talking about with Rob, what attitude will we really see between Greece and its creditors going forward?
Well, I think that Kyriakos Mitsotakis explained many times that his objective is to renegotiate some of the terms of the agreement between Greece and the creditors for the next years. And, for example, try to reduce the surplus that for the moment it's very important, it's huge, and this is not a good sign for growth in Greece for the next years. So he promised that he will try to renegotiate the terms of the agreement, of the post-memorandum agreement, but I think that not many people think that this would be possible. And this is because also Tsipras promised that some years before, and also the ex-government of Samaras and Venizelos tried to do that, and then they didn't manage it. So, of course, this is, let's say, in the campaign communication strategy. So it was normal to say that. And the second thing is that Kyriakos Mitsotakis says that his objective is to reach a growth rate of 4%. And this is a precondition in order to provide social benefits to the working classes and also to the middle class. The question is how he will do that. He's saying that the only way to reach a growth of this rate would be to accelerate the process of privatizations and also to continue to privatize the sector of healthcare services. But I think that there is a part of the electorate that they will try to resist on this kind of proposals. And in any way, we know that these tools they are not so efficient as we could thought.
And let me ask you on this point. Let me ask you on this point. When Greeks cast their ballot on Sunday, were they doing it with their eyes open?
Sorry, I didn't hear you very well.
Were citizens casting their ballots with their eyes open in the face of the campaign promises you're describing?
Well, I think that the electorate voted for New Democracy, but there is, let's say, there is a clear victory in terms of numbers, but actually there is a reshuffling of political cards because we had political parties on the right wing of the political spectrum that actually disappeared. And I'm talking about the ANEL, the coalition partner of Syriza, for example. This party doesn't exist anymore. But also the River Party, Liberal Party of the center, also this party disappeared. So all the voters of these parties moved to the New Democracy Party. So now we have a very big party, conservative liberal party, that integrated also the extreme right-wing electorate in Greece.
The extreme right wing? I mean, the disappearance, for instance, of Golden Dawn from Parliament, you're saying that their ideas have gone mainstream?
What I'm saying is that Golden Dawn didn't manage to get in the Greek parliament. So we know also that the half of Golden Dawn voters voted for New Democracy. And now we know that persons that they belong to the extreme right, the Greek extreme right faction, they will have ministerial posts. They will be ministers. Okay? So we are not talking anymore about a liberal party as it was the tradition of the father of Kyriakos Mitsotakis, Konstantinos Mitsotakis. We are talking about a new political identity with a new ideological profile that normalize also extreme right nationalist discourse in the public debate within the country.
Could I just put a question here? Robert Parsons, the chief foreign editor at France 24. Isn't it a bit of an assumption to say that the Golden Dawn people who didn't vote for Golden Dawn this time are going to get some sort of representation, some sort of cabinet position? Is their influence within New Democracy, in other words, really as strong as you're suggesting it is? Because the impression that I get, particularly given the fact that the voter turnout in this election was very low, 57%, is that Golden Dawn actually did badly, full stop, and they don't have very much influence within New Democracy and aren't very likely to get cabinet posts in New Democracy.
I'm sorry, but the sound is not very good, so I'm not sure to understand everything you said. But what I can say is that we know that they changed their discourse during the campaign as far as concerns a range of matters. For example, as far as concerns refugees and migration policy, they declared that they are going to give this portfolio of migration policy and refugee policy to the Minister of Civil Protection and not anymore to the Ministry of Justice. And this is a big difference. This makes a big difference about what are their intentions. And they said also that they would like to remodel, actually, to reform the university asylum. And this is a big issue in Greece. You know, we have a long tradition as far as concerns university asylum. This has to do with the coup d'etat in 1967, and the law has been decided afterwards because of everything what happened during the dictatorship. So they have some intentions that they are very clear. Mitsotakis explained all these things before. Nobody could say that he didn't say it. So, of course, there is a part of the electorate that they accept these more authoritarian policies that maybe they will be put in place, that's for sure. That's why I'm saying that New Democracy currently is not the party that we knew before, the Liberal Conservative Party, even Popular Party, okay? It's not, the identity of the party has changed, and this we should take into account.
How badly did the left do in this election? Because if you add up the votes of Syriza, the party of the now former Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras, and that of his ex-finance minister Yanis Varoufakis, it's quite a sizable number.
Well, as far as concerns Syriza, what is happening now is that actually the defeat of Syriza is quite small. They lost 4% in comparison with the September 2015 election. This means 150,000 people. This is not a big deal. That's why actually they consider that this is a very good score for them. These people, actually, there is a shift. They voted for Varoufakis, the majority of them. And so we could say that Syriza actually didn't lose a lot of things. There is only Varoufakis at the left of Syriza, and he will try to be, let's say, the more radical left opposition in the Greek parliament. But in reality, Syriza managed to reform itself, to transform actually its political identity, because currently is the main opposition party of the center left in Greece and even in Europe, with the party of Pedro Sanchez, the socialists in Spain. Syriza are the two more important parties, or social democrat parties in Europe nowadays.
They don't sit in the same voting bloc, though, at the European Parliament.
Yeah, but let's wait and see how Tsipras, what he will change. I know that he has the intention to change the name of the party. This is the first thing, all right? And then we're going to see how he will work with the social base of the party, with the circle of people that they advise him until now. I think that he has the intention. Maybe he will also leave the radical left in the European Parliament. This is not, we should not exclude this possibility. But in any case, his strategy is its personal viability, political viability in the Greek political spectrum, but also in Europe. And that's why this mutation, as I use this term, ideological and political mutation, was important, was necessary.
One final question for you, Filippa Chatzistavrou. North Macedonia, it was said on the campaign trail that the decision to have that historic agreement was unpopular. Going forward, is that going to be an issue? Are they going to go back on the deal?
The deal of Macedonia issue, you mean?
Yes.
Yes. No, they cannot do that. According to international law principles, they cannot do that unilaterally speaking, all right? Only if the two parts decide to cancel the agreement, this could be possible, but you need to have also the agreement of the other partner. So actually they accepted that. They said formally that they are not going to try to defy the agreement, but at the same time they are going to put in place as they said, cultural diplomacy tools in order to communicate about Greek Macedonia, explaining that the only true area that has the historical origins and the story is the Greek Macedonia and not the North Macedonia.
Filippa,
so this is about cultural diplomacy, all right? It's not about international law negotiations.
Filippa Chatzistavrou, many thanks for joining us from Athens. I want to thank Robert Parsons for being with us here as well. Before we go,